You are listening to the Leadership Vision Podcast, our show helping you build positive team culture. Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Freeburg, and this week on the Leadership Vision Podcast, we reflect on the first year of Dr. Linda and Brian Schubring's new book, Unfolded: Lessons in Transformation from an Origami Crane. Now, we do that by sharing stories from readers, from leaders, and from teams who have connected deeply with the book. From rediscovering forgotten dreams to finding new ways to lead others, this conversation explores how simple stories can create lasting transformation. You can learn more about the book by going to leadershipvisionconsulting.com or clicking on the link in the show notes. All right, let's get into it. Brian and Linda, it's been a year since Unfolded: Lessons in Transformation from an Origami Crane came out. Last week we talked about the way that it's impacted you, that it's changed you a little bit, some surprises that came up in the process. What I'm curious to know, now that this has been fluttering its little wings out in the world for, again, about a year, what stories from readers jump out to you? Someone who, ran up to you at an engagement or at an airport or on the street and was like, this book has shaped me. Here's what happened. When you said this on page 44, it meant that. What stories jump to mind when you hear that prompt?
Well, we haven't had anybody run up to us in the airport. So
that'll come.
That story hasn't happened.
Okay.
One of the place that I want to start is with a story with an executive leader that we're working with, and this is a gentleman who is in a situation where there are a lot of pressures, great degrees of uncertainty that he's facing, and he read the book, and the enthusiasm that he had in our conversation about the book was like the wind in your hair moment when you're like, whoa. And the reason why it was so impactful for him was because he not only saw himself in the character of OC, in that he himself realized that he needed to have some changes, but what was most important for him was the concept of the playground, that he used the book as a way to understand the context that he was in, and as the executive leader, understanding that each of his team members represented a character or some of the characters. That's where he landed, was that the most important message of the book wasn't necessarily the unfolding, which is the central theme, but for him, the most important part of the story was that we are here within this place, this playground. We are with our team members, and that we need to learn to work with our team members and not try to change them. And in that realization, he had to rethink, and he still is, we're still working with them, like rethinking how to engage his team members in the place where he's at to really pursue the greater dream. And for him, the dream was more than his own dream of who he wants to be and aspire to as a leader, but how does he take the vision of the organization and create a dream type story around it to inspire those that are on his team. That happened, soon after the book was released. We're still working with the organization, and so it's fun to walk with him still as we're watching him go through a process of unfolding himself.
So good. So, some of the standout people to me are the ones that I've read it too, or I've read it too, and we were working with a group of leaders, and they all turn to Brian and say things like, I wanted to fly too, or I'm training to get my pilot's license, or and as I was witnessing people share about them wanting to fly, I just thought, that is something so interesting. And that's not just I want to go up in an airplane, but to think of all the people that dreamed of flying like a bird over the course of history, and then all of a sudden we have airplanes and aircrafts that can not only bring us around, but bring us around the moon and back as of late. And so those kind of dreams, that kind of flying, it invites people to say, oh, I just thought it was like something fun to do, not necessarily a dream. And so listening to that and getting curious about people's dreams has been very encouraging.
Yeah. There's a great quote from the Adam Sandler movie Hustle, where he plays this basketball agent. And long story, he loses his job, and his wife says something about, oh, wasn't that your dream? He's like, guys in their 50s don't have dreams anymore. Ooh. And it was just this like moment of like, oh, and I'm not quite in my 50s, but I'm someone that I think through this book is like, yeah, I still have dreams. Like we can still have dreams no matter our age. You just mentioned like people have these dreams of flying. Have you encountered people who are not college students that have been like, you know what? I still have this little dream tucked away that maybe I'll entertain.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have. I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a gentleman that I am working with, and he has read the book. And part of the challenge that he was wrestling with was trying to understand the timing in his life. He's at a life stage where he's in a career that he is extremely good at, and that satisfaction that he once had isn't there, not for a loss of his potential, but because the circumstance that he's in is so challenging. And in the back of his mind is this dream that he has to do some other things with his life. In the conversation, the chapter about dream was part of the context and the backdrop of our conversation. To have dreams that need to incubate for a while, that's important. It's also important to understand the transition from one dream to another. Sometimes dreams need to have that delayed sunset before they're actually over, not because you're done with the dream, but because the people that are being impacted by your dream aren't done with it yet themselves. And so the conversation was about, like in a book, you can move to the next chapter pretty quickly, but in life, sometimes you can't. The dream that's coming may take some more time. And so in that conversation, I'm still talking with him. And so that chapter, metaphorically, is still being written. But it was an awakening to me that the time sequence that we have in the book of a dream unfolding into something else does not match real life's time sequence of how slowly and gradually unfolding actually happens.
Yeah.
Or there is a polarization of either you're a dreamer or you're not.
Yeah.
And some of the opening questions in the dream chapter invite people to say, well, like, look at your dreams in a different way. I remember talking to a leader who said, she just looked right at me. She's like, I don't sleep enough to have dreams. I was like, that's not the point. Like, this is not a literal...
Different kind of dreams.
different kind of dreams. But it was that, well, maybe you don't sleep enough, or you haven't carved out time, or you haven't put the investment even to take a beat, to take a pause, and reflect on what are some of the dreams around you, because it's the dreams that make us human. It's the dreams that we are a part of, that unleash a kind of creativity that, once again, the world needs right now.
Yeah.
Another way that we have seen readers respond and remind us of what's sticking in their life is their response to the meditations. People, number one, are surprised that there are meditations in the book. Linda is someone who will point that out, that in this book there's something unique for you. I did not know how the meditations were going to land. I was somewhat surprised that the publisher said yes to them.
Why?
I just didn't know, like, if it would fit within an allegory. But what did I know?
Sure.
But readers are saying to us that those meditations are serving a variety of purposes. Obviously, there are those that align with why I wrote them, and that was to create an emotional and intellectual interruption of the pace of the book, to engage a different part of the mind. People are saying that. People have also responded by saying that they use them for their own life, like out of context of the book. And Linda has some leaders using meditations.
Yeah, they use them to start meetings, or they use them to start an offsite, or just a moment of pause. There's a leader that I'm thinking of right now, and I recently met her, and at the end of our conversation, I just said, I have a book for you. She's like, I would have bought it. I was like, no, this is something big. She's stepping into a very big role right now. It is her time. It is her time to fly. And I said, but I don't just want to give you the book. I want to read the first meditation. And I slowly read it to her, and I'd kind of reached out across the table, and I looked at her as I was reading, and her eyes are filling with tears, and I wanted her to receive the gift of Brian's meditation that has been decades in the making, that has made this book very. And at the end, she said, thank you. And she said, I think I'm going to read this every day. I'm going to read this every day, because leaders who can understand their own dreams and step forward with courage, that in a world of possibilities, why not? Why not fly? Why not pursue those dreams? When a leader can tap into their deep-seated need, we have found that it's those leaders who can see the dreams of others, even when others can't see them, and find ways to both harness and galvanize and put fuel on the flame of those dreams of others.
Linda, I love that. And maybe to follow this up, but I was told by our colleague Laura to ask you about the story that you told her about an executive that had her book stolen by her 10-year-old daughter.
Oh, yes.
Tell me about that. What happened there?
Yes. Well, I sent a book off to a former client, and I knew that she had 2 young daughters, and I knew how she leads, and that she would lead from a place of understanding the playgrounds of her people. And so I sent a book off to her, and in a meeting, she just said, I'm sorry, I haven't read your book yet. I'm like, there's no pressure in that.
Just whatever.
Just once you read it,
yeah.
Just know that I was thinking about you. So we'll go from there. And she said, well, I was looking all over the house for it. I couldn't find it anywhere. And she made mention to her daughter, I'm looking for this book. And she's like, oh, mommy, it's under my bed. It's my favorite book.
It's like, what?
And so
That's for
to
work.
know, and I think sometimes it's surprising. And for me, it's yes, cultivate the next generation of leaders that can tune into these simple stories that can harness the collective of teams in the future.
It's great. I've shown you this before, but my kids started coloring in the different characters. We kind of stopped with the owl here.
Okay,
but
that's
I've thought, I don't know how I would do this, and especially legally, but extracting all the images and turning it into a coloring book for kids with different quotes, on different pages. But speaking of quotes, are there any quotes or lines or phrases that get repeated back to you often? Like in the previous episode, I talked about one of my favorite passages, and I could read a bunch here back to you, but any that you're in engagement and people are like, oh, I love this. What are some of the one-liners that keep surfacing often?
I'm not sure which one we said it in. It's the change. The quote about the shape you're in today isn't the shape you need to stay.
Yep.
That sticks. We hear people repeat that back. It's such a multi-dimensional, multifaceted phrase that is easy for people to grasp. I think that they have lived that experience of feeling that they can't change their shape. Another phrase that is repeated often in our presentations after we hear people talking in groups is, your life is a map, or some paraphrase of that sentiment, that there's something about my life and my lived experiences and the lessons I've learned, the meaningful relationships and the places are a map that's here to help me navigate and to help me understand. That's often the language of map, and that metaphor is often heard in the discussion groups and the talking after our keynotes.
I love that.
And I think the last one for me is the sentiment around the playgrounds, and to know that if you stay in the playground too long, you'll be limited by what becomes familiar.
That sticks.
And so people that are hungry for growth, that visual has been some helpful tools or handles for them. Yeah.
I love that. My favorite line?
Yeah.
Accept your imperfections. Be at peace with the folds and the creases from before. Learn lessons and apply your wisdom. When you return to the playground, be kind and share.
Oh, thank you, Nathan.
Any final thoughts, Brian or Linda, on ways that this book has landed with readers in ways unexpected or expected?
I would want to say I would want to hear more. I want to hear those stories of people's unfolding and the quotes or the sentiments that you find helpful. Yeah, would love to hear from you.
I love that. Well, thank you, and thank you, listeners, to listening to the Leadership Vision podcast. If you've not picked up your copy of Unfolded Lessons in Transformation from an Origami Crane, make sure that you find it wherever you get your good books, and they're also at the library, I have found recently. My name is Nathan Freeburg.
I'm Linda Schubring.
And I'm Brian Schubring.
And on behalf of our entire team, thanks for listening.